Hello, welcome to Quilt and Color. My name is Shalina. Today I'm going to show you how I made this Raggedy Heart quilt. This is a quilt that I made for the Project Quilting Challenge for this week. The challenge for this Project Quilting Challenge was to make a quilt that's inside out. Some part of the project must be inside out. That included things like raw edges. The Project Quilting Challenges have to be made in 1 week, so it has to be rapid. For this project, I decided to use a journal quilt size. So this is the size of a sheet of paper. This is a great project to use your little remnants of scraps, which fills my heart. These little remnants are too small to be able to piece together into a quilt, but they work wonderfully as raw edge applique, and all this texture is just so wonderful, and the pink and purple colors make that really radiant for a Valentine's Day quilt, for a romance quilt. And I like that I left all the little hearts all frayed. There's a little border that has the heart design using the embroidery stitches on my machine. So let me show you how I made this quilt. So for this project, I've decided to take my advice and think small because I want to get this project finished as quickly as possible. So I decided to make a journal size quilt, which is basically the size of a sheet of paper. When I was first learning about art quilts, that was something that was very popular, is to make journal quilts. And people made journal quilts about once a month, maybe even once a week. And it's a nice, manageable type of a project where you can make it pretty quickly. It's just the size of a sheet of paper, which in the United States is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. The Project Quilting Challenge this week is to make something that's inside out. So it was something that could either show raw edges or something that maybe is a birthed quilt. So that was one of my choice thoughts, was that I would make a birthed quilt and then applique a heart on it. Even though it's not very unique, I thought it would still make a good project to be able to be finished in a week. I had seen this quilt that was online where there was a lot of dimension in it, because the person had used a lot of fabric that was really close to each other. So that's what I thought I could do, is I could sew like rows of fabric really close to each other. And so then there would be a lot of dimension on this quilt. So that is my plan. Like I said, I was thinking about birthing the quilt, but what happened was I saw somebody else who has already finished their quilt, and they made raw edges on the outside, which would be perfect for a quilt that has raw edges on it anyway. That's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to make raw edges on the outside, and one way that would be nice to be able to finish it off is just to add a ribbon. So I found this ribbon that I think will work really well with this quilt. I can just put the ribbon all the way around the edges, and that way I don't actually have to finish the raw edges on the outside of the quilt. And then I can just make a little heart shape on the inside. I also have some darker fabric too. I think that'll turn out to be a pretty good quilt. This one is not batik fabric, so it's not, you can't see it very well on this side, but this one is a batik. So it's the same on both sides, so I think this one will look better. But maybe if I include some of this, it'll still look okay to add a little purple flavor. And if not, actually I have another batik here that I can use. That's the same on both sides, so it'll add the purple color to make this purple be something that it looks like it fits on the quilt. So I'll go ahead and cut up strips. I think these are 1 inch. This was just a leftover from a project that I'm working on, and this is more than 1 inch. It's 1 1/4, something like that. It doesn't really have to be exact, but this is like 1 1/4. So what I'm going to do is just cut more of these strips and more of these strips, and that way I can get started. I'm also going to draw a heart with my Frixion pen here. I don't think it really matters about the pen because I'm going to cover it up with the applique on it anyway. And trying to get the center to make sure that I have, it doesn't have to be perfect either. So if the border is over here, I would think that maybe the heart would stop around here, maybe. And then it would be the same on the other side. So I'll just start here. So around here. And then if I want to end it, if this is here, give it a little bit of spacing here. So I want this to end about here. Maybe let's curve this out a little bit. And then to finish it, this part would probably be here, maybe. And here. And here. Something like that. So I'll find the backing and the batting and cut these strips. And I'll be back. Okay, I just wanted to show you here. I have the top, which is 8.5 by 11, which is the size of a sheet of paper. I have the batting. I'm going to use the same back that I've been using for my other project quilting quilts so far, since I still have some left. So now the sandwich is all ready to be quilted. I've cut these strips of fabrics to make the heart, and so I'm going to just go ahead and start sewing. If I need more, I'll just cut some more. I didn't want to cut more than I needed. I've cut these strips long without subcutting them into the proper sizes because I don't want to have to keep track of the sizes, so I'll just sew it down and then cut it off as I need. In my plan, I'll just start in the middle, sew this down, move it up this way, and then sew the next strip as close to this as possible, but not too close because I don't want to have to make too many rows of this. So I'll just sew both of these, this on this side and this on this side, with very little room in between, and then I'll just keep folding them up and adding more strips both directions. And then when I'm finished with the heart itself, then I can go ahead and add the edging to finish off the quilt. Okay, I'm back. I have gone ahead and sewn all of the little pieces of fabric onto the quilt. You can see it's just little strips of fabric that have been sewn down into the quilt. And I have to admit that as I was doing this, it was a little scary. It wasn't looking very good, but now that I have them all together, I think it looks pretty good. This was a little difficult for me to make because it wastes a lot of thread, and I didn't pull up the thread because I didn't think it would really matter because the fabric will cover up most of the thread that's in here. I've cut off most of the little pieces from the front, but it looks like I still have some more to do. So as I was thinking about this quilt, I was thinking maybe I can fringe these little pieces, but I'm not sure if that's going to make things look better or worse. So I think for now I'm just going to leave this the way it is instead of trying to fringe it. But I was looking at this ribbon that we had talked about earlier. I don't really like this ribbon to go with this quilt. I just think it's too purple, it's too shiny, it takes attention away from the heart. So I saw this little scrap that was sitting around, and I think this would look pretty good. It's just a piece of fabric that I used already in this quilt. So if I could, I like this size better. If I can cut this fabric that I have left over here into this size, I can just use that as my ribbon that's across around the quilt. So one thing that I did want to do is to trim out this heart just to define it just a little bit more. I think it does look like a heart already, but if I trim it a little bit, I think maybe it'll help make it look a little bit more heart-like. Okay, I have my scissors. So this I'm not worried about. I didn't sew all the way up here because they were not even, and to me I'd rather have it even than trying to make it up higher. I think that'll be fine here. So right now I just want to trim a little bit off without, this is going to be kind of scary because I want to make sure that I don't trim the quilt itself, but I just want to trim a little bit of the extra pieces that I've added. This one looks a little bit off. As I was sewing, I did make sure that I sewed a little bit less than where I thought the heart would stop, just because I knew that it would stay where it is without having that, and I wanted to make sure I had enough room to trim. This is a messy quilt to make for sure. I think that was pretty good. And I want to trim this a little bit more, make a little bit more cleavage here. It goes this way, this one goes this way. Okay, it was a string that was holding those two pieces together that made it look like it was going to be hard to get in here, but I don't think it is. the best I'm going to be able to do. This one maybe. I just press this down a little bit, or maybe glue it down to keep it a little more secure. I did add some pieces where it looked like there was some missing. I think maybe I need another piece right here. Maybe that's why it's not laying correctly here. This is a really tiny space because there's some here, but maybe I can add 2 more pieces in those spaces to fill this in a little bit more. It still feels like this is really close to the edge, and if I try to put the extra piece here, I think it's going to take up a lot. But I think I've sewn really close to this, so it's going to be hard to trim it lower, make it smaller. A little bit better. Okay, I think it looks good. I'm going to add a couple more pieces, one here and one here somewhere, if I can find it again. You know what I could do, since I have, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Since I have extra batting and backing over here, maybe instead of having this border right against here, I could put the border this way, so that'll give me a little bit more space to work with. And then I can just trim it down this direction here instead of there, because it looks like there's more space on this side. I think there's more space on this side than there is on this side. But this is sewn pretty close to the edge, so I don't think I can trim any more off here without cutting into threads. This one has more room to cut, but doesn't need. Okay, so I'll add these 2 pieces, and then I think I will just go ahead and I can add a trim here, but then I just make sure I have enough space on this side to add the trim here. Okay, I'm back. I've added 3 pieces. This one, this one and this one. I had pink left over, so that's what I used. And so I need to trim this again. Okay, I think it looks good. Again. This quilt was a little scary to make when I'm making these. I'm just experimenting with things. And I don't know what it looks like, even though you have already seen a picture of the completed project. I haven't yet. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim this. And then I can just sew around the edges. I think I'm going to use an embroidery stitch of some kind. Okay, here's my heart again. I have gone ahead and stitched down the borders with the beautiful heart design. I used black in the top thread because I just wanted to make it stand out a little bit so you could see it. Now I'm going to try to trim the block. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to do it with all the extra bulk on the front, but it's going to be really hard to be able to reach it, but I think I can do it. Looks like I can. I'll just have to keep it tilted a little bit on the side, but it works. Okay, this side is done. And lining this up to make sure it's straight, and then making sure I'm far enough in here. So it looks pretty straight. I don't want to push too far on this because I don't want to break my ruler. This is still straight. This is good. This is an improv piece, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but especially with raw edges. This one has a little bit of white on the outside. Maybe I'll trim a little bit more. I'm going to just leave it this way. There you have it. My heart is finished. Just trim off some loose threads. I like these loose threads in here. I think they add some character to the quilt, so I'm not going to cut these off. Yeah, I like it. It's very unique. I guess I can cut off some of these loose threads. I'll just go ahead and press this to get the friction out. But if it's there, it's not going to be that obvious anyway. It's pretty light. And then my quilt is finished. Love all this texture here. It would be interesting to see what it looks like fringe, but I'm not going to fringe it right now. This is more in keeping with the original inspiration quilt that I saw. I don't think that one doesn't look like it's been fringed. So yeah, I think it looks good. And it's a nice heart shape. Thank you for watching me make this quilt. I hope that it gives you some ideas about how you can use scraps of fabric into your next quilt project to make something fun. Because it's frayed edge, because you don't have to worry about perfection in this quilt. You just snip out some fabric and sew it on. You can just trim as you need to make the design that you want to make. In other ways you can use this is to choose where the colors go to make layers of colors on your quilt. It's just a lot of fun to play with this. You don't have to worry about perfection because it is raw edge. It's a nice refresher in between big projects. And it also make a great gift for Valentine's Day. This is the third quilt that I made for the Project Quilting Challenge this year. I'll put a link to the other two that I made on the screen. So if you miss them, make sure you catch them. I make lots of quilts on this quilting variety show. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any of them. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you in the next video.